Welcome to This Old Camera. I'm your host Azriel Knight, and today I'm showing you the camera modeled after the one in Fallout 4.
Man's best friend. Make some of man's best pictures. Appealing snapshots, beautiful color slides, lively home movies. Your dog has a personality all his own, so you don't need trick shots or dog show poses. Just watch him quietly, keep your camera ready, and you'll get the kind of picture only you can take. Of course, you'll want to do as all professionals do and take several shots of every situation. That way you'll be sure to get pictures you'll enjoy over and over again.
The Kodak Brownie Hawkeye had a life cycle spanning 3 decades, from 1949 to 1961. Originally it came on its own, and later it would be modified to accept a flash gun. This is a basic medium format box camera with a meniscus lens, 1 aperture and 1 shutter speed. Well, 2 if you include the bulb setting. It sold for $6.95, and for an extra $4 you got the flash. Adjusting for inflation, that's about $100 US in 2016 money. Talk to any baby boomer and they will remember this camera, if they don't already have one on their shelf. Famous underwater photographer David Duboulet started taking photos when he was 12 by stuffing his Hawkeye into a large rubber bag. Celebrity photographer Hank O'Neill's first camera was a Brownie Hawkeye, a camera he won at a grocery raffle. Here's a 16-year-old Bill Clinton getting ready to take a picture of JFK. Movies set in the 1950s often feature this camera due to its production spanning the entire decade. Some of you photographers who are also gamers probably recognize this camera as the one found throughout the wasteland of Fallout 4. I was actually very surprised on just how close they resembled their camera to the Hawkeye, from the buttons right down to the nameplate on the front. Some trends are long forgotten, but the Brownie Hawkeye remains a staple in 1950s pop culture. From here we'll go over some basics of its operation. Then I'll put it through tests to make sure it's working. After that I'll go out and shoot with it, and finally I'll share some thoughts with you and tell you where you can get one, how much it'll set you back, and if it's worth it. To load the film, unlatch the back here and pull the front and back apart. Place a roll of 620 or modified 120 film into the top, take up the lead and wrap it around the back gently. Feed the paper into the take-up spool, rotate the advance knob a couple of times to ensure it's secure, and close up by reversing the previous step. Now you'll want to advance to the first frame. If you haven't done this before, it might seem like forever. Don't worry, you didn't miss it. Once you've framed your shot in the viewfinder, you can take it by pressing the shutter button here. Taking a long exposure is accomplished by lifting this button labeled either B or long, and then holding the shutter release for as long as you want the film exposed. Remember to advance immediately after taking your exposure. YouTuber Nick Moore did some measuring and figured the focal length was about 80mm with an f/16 aperture. Both of my brownies fired at 1/30th of a second. To attach the flash gun, place 2 C batteries in the handle by unscrewing here. Then attach with this knob here. Place a flash bulb inside by pushing until you hear a click. These old flash bulbs don't always fire. You'll always want fresh batteries, more bulbs than you need, and the acceptance that you may waste frames due to misfires. To release the bulb, wait about 15 seconds for it to cool down, then use the eject switch on the back. When you've taken all 12 exposures, wind until the paper goes past the viewfinder, then wind some more. Open it up and remove the film. Here are the results from my Brownie Hawkeye. Not stellar images by any stretch, but they do have their charm. I used a handheld meter at the beginning to get a sense of my lighting conditions. In this case it was cloudy and raining. That was a good thing, it meant consistent exposure and not a lot of deep shadows to worry about. Taking lower angle exposures is easier with that viewfinder too. Of course, in recent years, the square image has made a comeback, and I think it's partially due to cameras like these. The aspect ratio also means you can hold it any which way. Let's talk about some pros and cons. I love the iconic design of the camera. It's simple, beautiful, and easy to cradle in your hands. Because they're simple, They're easy to take apart, modify, and repair. Holgamods.com has an entire section dedicated to the Hawkeye, including services for restoring, repainting, and repairs. No tripod socket. We have a camera with a bulb setting, but no socket to hold it steady. You're left with whatever raised and level surface you can find in the moment if you're shooting in a low light situation. 620 film cameras are always a pain because of the spool size. It's like the beta of camera formats. No double exposure prevention. If your finger slips or you forget to advance, you're out of luck. Because these cameras are everywhere, you can pay whatever you want if you're willing to wait. I've seen a listing on eBay where the camera went for a penny, and many auctions end with only a single bid placed. And because it's so common, you're gonna see it bundled with other cameras. Besides eBay, I've found 2 listings on my local Kijiji, one with a case and one with a flash. The prices were meh. There are some with higher value, and here's what you want to look out for. The first thing you're going to do is date your model with the camerosity method. This is something which Kodak came up with to show production date. Each letter has an assigned number. For example, one of my brownies, a Canadian model, has CARA written on it. That translated to December 1951. The other, an American model, is from October 1955. Some of the older models could take 120 spools, something Kodak would later correct, and the oldest ones have metal winders on them. Other things to check for on your model is the viewfinder, which is protruding in earlier models but recessed in later versions. Another thing to watch out for is what is printed on the bulb switch. It says long on the front of a newer model and simply B in black lettering on the older ones. Overall, this should be on every camera collector's shelf. That's all for this episode. Please remember to like and subscribe, and let me know which camera you think I should review in the comments below. For exclusive commentary and more, I hope you'll consider becoming my patron on Patreon. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and until next time, stay classic.